And we are back with another episode of the Hockey Princess podcast. I am your host, the Hockey Princess. We have Kirsty Old Guy. Guys, we have a lot to talk about. There's been a lot of hockey. Finally, there's been a lot of hockey to talk about. Just as a reminder, make sure to hit that like and subscribe on either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, however you watch or listen to us on a weekly basis. And just as a reminder, because now the season is starting, and I really didn't think of this until I was at the first preseason game. If you are going to a game this season, be it NHL, AHL, ECHL, seeing our friends down in Indy, going to a junior game or a college game, please wait for the whistle. Do not get up while the puck's in play. The beer will still be there, the food will still be there, and the bathroom will still be there. Please wait until a stoppage of play to go back to your seats. Don't just start roaming, especially if you are unsure of where your seat is. Just wait for the whistle. It's a couple of minutes. That is all. Let's get into it. We got a lot to talk about. A lot of hockey.
I don't get to rant about people waiting for whistle.
Would you like to rant about waiting for the whistle? You haven't gone to a game yet, so I don't know if you get to rant.
I always get to rant. It's part of being crusty old guy.
All right.
Wait for the whistle. I think we'll take off where Rockford left off, and we'll just start yelling pucks in play to anyone walking.
I'm about that.
All right, I really didn't have much to say. Oh my goodness. It's like, okay, go on.
All right. There's a lot of stuff. A lot of hockey, a lot of preseason hockey, a lot of drama in the NHL world. And first up, my favorite drama, because Chris, the old guy, said we can keep talking about this. Guys, the Jeremy Swayman saga continues. Where we left off, Swayman's over here. Boston Bruins are over here. They're not getting any closer to meeting in the middle for a contract. Just as a reminder, they do have to have something settled by December 1st. That is the big day. He does not need to have a contract by their first game, but by December 1st, something has to be in place. Otherwise, Jeremy Swayman does not play for a season. But they're not close. And then some more drama happened. What is his name? Cam Neely? Something Neely? I'm not entirely sure because I'm not a Bruins fan. There was a little press conference and he was asked kind of, where's the situation at? And he said something along the lines of, if I was him, I'd have 64 million reasons to play right now, which everyone kind of just jumped to that the Boston Bruins had offered him a contract entailing $64 million. The easiest one to kind of assume from that is an 8-for-8 deal. So that's 8 years for $8 million, totaling to $64 million. Everybody thought that's what Boston offered, and Swayman refused. But then Jeremy Swayman's agent came out with a statement saying, this is the first time we've heard this number. They really haven't talked to us. It's kind of been radio silence. We don't like, what happened in the press conference and kind of shaping it to, Jeremy's the bad guy in the situation. We're going to take a couple of days to reflect on this. There's been rumors and rumblings today that he's been requesting a trade out of Boston. A lot of people are joking that, there's going to be a trade between Boston and Ottawa and we'll get the goalie hug reunion. Probably not, but it'd be really funny because then crusty old guy can get his wish of Ottawa doing better and I can watch a team implode. And that's just fun popcorn. I think they will have something done contract-wise, be it he does sign with Boston or be it something more drastic happens. I don't think Jeremy Swayman ends up December 1st without a contract and is not going to play for a year. I don't see it happening.
No. Again, it's been entertaining. What I heard is the offer was kind of close to it. I did hear 7.8 for 8 years. Again, whether that's for sure. Again, there's been a lot of rumblings of Swayman now saying he wants to be traded. I can't imagine that either. I would expect your Chicago Blackhawks to be on board with that and at least to be a suitor.
Yes.
And
yes, we have goaltenders, but Jeremy Swayman in Chicago Blackhawk jersey, that changes things, friends. It changes things.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the way Peter Mrazek has played, you send him to Boston, I think he'd do real well.
Yeah.
Real well with a team that plays defense in front of them and has structure. The thing to always remember in these things is there's a lot of back and forth. As long as he signs with Boston, this is all forgotten. It's no big deal. Again, I'm just surprised this year by more than years in the past where GMs just seem to be putting their foot in their mouth.
That's the biggest issue that I think that I'm having with this situation is, I think he doesn't need to say what he's been saying in the press regarding this situation because it's not making you look good by any means.
No, it just isn't. Once you start negotiating in the press, things take a weird turn, and every GM should know you're calling the press conference. So you should have a list of things that you've gone over in your head that you say, I will not say. I will not say. But he couldn't do it. So I would assume he stays there. They're in win now mode unless they can get a goaltender back that they believe is ready to win now. Again, could that be Peter Mrazek? Sure. But if you're looking from a Hawk standpoint, you're giving up next year's number one, Mrazek, a defenseman, and probably another veteran person. You're going to end up giving up a lot. Again, 8-year contracts for a goaltender scare the shit out of me. I do not like them. I'm glad we don't have to deal with that now. As I mentioned on last week's episode, I think Swayman has won what?
Right.
I don't know.
Is that a testament to Swayman and his performance level, or is that a testament to Boston?
I think it's a testament to Swayman. I don't care. Goaltenders go through and make runs and win series. That's what they do. That's if you're talking 8 million or more, that's got to be on your resume. You are able to take over a series just by the way you play. Look at the guy from the Rangers. He can take over a series. The Cat can take over. Swayman just hasn't done it yet. That's a lot of money to be putting out there for somebody who you think can do it.
Yeah.
Instead of rewarding somebody who has done it.
But they're not in that position though. There's not a reward. There's nobody to reward in Boston either. You don't have that.
Right, but I mean, all of their forwards and everybody else has already been slighted money-wise. The goaltender still hasn't shown up when it's mattered.
He has not had the opportunity to.
He had the opportunity. How did he do in the second round?
How did everybody else do in the second round? I'm a firm believer that, yes, goaltenders do have the ability to win series, but at the end of the day, for 60 minutes, there's 5 other of your teammates on the ice.
Right. So but I can easily turn that around and say there's no other RFA on that team that's asking for $8 million. He doesn't have much leverage and he's asking for $8 million. That's where, I'll have the problem. Again, it wouldn't be a trade that I would make. It frightens me, but That's why I'm just sitting here. That's why I'm just sitting here talking. I'm a conservative kind of guy. Okay, Swayman's got plenty of time on the show again.
Yeah, like I'm a huge fan of his. Well, I hope he comes to Chicago. It'll be great. Fine with getting rid of whoever we need to get rid of. Ned. That's fine. Swayman would be cool. All right. Next, we've got a couple of injuries. Some pretty big injuries have happened this first week of preseason. We've got Ryan Lindgren out the upper body, undisclosed upper body from injuries. Drew Doughty from the Los Angeles Kings with a fractured ankle. That was really gnarly to watch. And Patrick Laine, I froze for a second. And Patrick Laine for expected, predicted, a couple of months, probably more. Probably won't see him until 2025.
Yeah, I would assume you heard the same thing. There is not a need for surgery. So that means he has a terrible strain or whatever else, but he'll be in that immobilizer probably for 2 months, and then they'll get started. It all just stinks. It was a terrible play. It's something you can't be doing in the preseason. You don't need to let the guy go by you, pull your leg back in. It's a friggin' preseason game. The Doughty one, people get tangled up and you get your skate caught in that board and who knows what. I'll be very interested to see how they address that. Right. And if the Clark kid actually gets a shot now and maybe he can fly, we'll see.
Yeah.
Again, this is probably a reason why you would like to have maybe just 3 preseason games. These guys are all in shape. They don't need to be doing this. Make it like a prospect thing. But again, he's still got to play at least a game or 2 before the season, right. So it can still happen.
Right.
It's just a shame. And he's an old man, so us old men don't heal very quickly.
Anything in the NHL world?
I don't think so. I mean, everybody's kind of getting ready. Everybody's feeling each other out. You'll get
Jack Guy is truly just beating up everybody.
Well, we can talk about a little bit about the Canadians. Yeah, Jack Guy is going after anyone. Now, listen, I understand. A superstar liberties were taken, and now you play in Ottawa tonight, and things get a little bit out of hand. But you got to watch your stuff. And in this league, you can't be going over after superstars. And his extremely light head hit to Tim Stützle, it just can't be tolerated. I expect the NHL to come down. I would say at least 4 to 5 games. You have to nip this in the butt that you will not tolerate people just going off headhunting. And there was another guy from Ottawa with kind of a cheap late hit, but Kirby Dach took care of him in the second period.
We love Kirby.
So, again, it's just a preseason game. You're just doing it to kind of go through the motions. Again, I get why he went nuts, but you got to learn to shelve things, man.
Right.
As far as the rest of the league, I don't think we got anything major still.
I feel like the Swayman stuff's just consuming most of the league right now, or at least.
Yeah, I mean, all everybody's trying to do now is just make it to go healthy. That's all anybody wants. You'll see a lot more cuts in the next couple days, and maybe some defensemen getting claimed, which usually happens. So. Besides that, yeah, it's been kind of quiet.
Yeah, a little quiet. Let's jump into our Blackhawks stuff. But first off, we have to talk about, a very special human to me because I'm just a big fan of his. Guys, the return of the Fells. Krusty, would you like to explain to our listeners the Fells, the blue line, the committed Indian, how we know?
Okay, well, basically, when I was getting into my craziness, if you heard in the Ronick interview, during that time frame, there was something called the Blue Line. Two guys had put out black and white on like harder paper, a 3 or 4 page printout on like, it wasn't paper though.
Cardstock?
Yeah, maybe cardstock or whatever. With everything you needed to know about tonight's game, everything about the other team, some good articles, and some very funny stuff. It became a staple for most people to purchase on their way into the United Center. Then it went away as the team went away. And then in, I gotta say, 07, guy named Sam Fells came back and started it back up. Called it the Committed Indian. And then a while later thought, we can't really use that kind of terminology after all of a sudden he went a little woke and then people were like, well, look at your somebody that Hockey Princess grew up reading when I would let her read it. She would steal the rag after I would drop her off at the end of the night. And I can remember one phone call from your mother asking, what the heck is my daughter reading?
It was great literature.
It definitely wasn't stuff that an 11 and 12-year-old girl should be reading. So Sam did put it out nicely. Did a fantastic job. I love the way Sam writes. I don't always agree with Sam. I think at other times he goes onto a hill and just out of stubbornness stays there, but he entertains the heck out of me the way he writes. He is starting up a website, which I think he's putting out an article daily along with like a Cubs article. Besides that, nobody is too sure. So it is, what was the name of it?
Oh, jeepers.
Huh?
Oh, jeepers. Well, you can look. I'll talk about how much I like the Committed Indian.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really great. Like Krusty said, I read it when I was probably too young to be reading it. But it told me everything that I needed to know. And I really didn't pay attention to the language or innuendos or inappropriate jokes from it. I just wanted to get to, what were the projected line pairings, learn more about the other team. And it was just a nice, even just like the lineup pages that were usually like the centerfold, was just a nice reference for me, because I knew the numbers for my team, but it was a nice reference being up in the 300 level. You can't really read the names on the back, but you can, see in the Committed Indian who's 34 on the Los Angeles Kings. And it was just a nice reference for me to be able to learn not only things about my team, but the other teams that the Hawks were playing throughout the season.
Yeah. So, that was a fantastic tool that I had. So I am hoping that Sam drops a game day edition with the lineup from the other team. We'll see if he does that. And usually he occasionally comes up with the fun nicknames too.
It's great.
And it's called Sam Fells Who's Buying. As of right now, I don't think there's many that are buying. I did buy. As I said, I want to see where this goes. He'll be very disruptive to the rest of the people in the Hawks world who didn't think there was many other voices there. He will be the voice on the other side, which should just be entertaining. I would assume there will be some unbelievable Twitter fights, which I know nothing about. I have Hockey Princess then explain it to me because even though I'm called X or whatever, I don't even know how to do really anything. I'm too old, but that's Sam has decided to get back into the Hawks game. It should be good reading. I suggest giving it a peruse. It's your cup of tea. And if you like what he's, dishing out, I think he's asking for a little bit of a donation or whatever. Again, I've read him a long, long time. I got no problem.
Big fan. I have his book. Big fan.
Yeah, and he's part of the crew like me who grew up and then really thought after like 95, 96, we were never going to see anything that resembled the Stanley Cup team. And we were wrong. So that's about the gist on Sam. He was working for Deadspin for a while, doing like soccer coverage and everything else. And sorry, Sam, but soccer sucks.
But now he's back. That's okay. We'll probably talk more about him throughout the season.
I guarantee you, Krusty old guy will occasionally steal some of his stuff. That I can guarantee you.
Probably. All right, friends. It's officially preseason. Let's get into some Blackhawks stuff. First and foremost, I'm going to get on my little high horse for a moment. A moment of your time. I try my best not to tell people, what you can think and what you cannot think regarding hockey, players, even if you're a Preds fan, that's your cup of tea, not my cup of tea, sort of thing. And I certainly never want to be the person that tells people who you can and cannot be excited for. Guys, we're in a rebuild. 99% of this is really painful to watch. So if there's an 18-year-old prospect that you're really excited about, be excited. Because that's probably the most exciting thing that's going to happen this season is being able to watch an 18-year-old prospect that makes you hopeful for the future. Go be excited. There is absolutely nothing wrong with being excited because right now it's a little depressing. Guys, we're losing 6-2 right now. It's pretty gosh darn depressing. I would just like to remind everyone that, these prospects are kids. And we don't know anything. Montreal Canadian fans didn't know that 2 weeks ago Patrick Laine was going to be out basically for the rest of the 2024 year. We don't know what can happen. They could, continue their trajectory in terms of how they're performing, and it could be best case scenario. They could plateau at a point. They could dip at a point. They could get an injury. Even once they've already made it to the NHL, if they make it to the NHL, to continue my streak, they could have a couple of years and then have an injury, like Hockey Princess's favorite hockey player, Tomo Ruutu, and he's never the same again, really. We don't know. So be excited. That's great. But we don't know what could happen. And if something does happen, I would like to remind everyone that these are just kids. Let's not turn on them and get nasty if something does happen to a poor 19-year-old from the middle of nowhere, Canada, because stuff happens and they're kids.
Yeah, well put, Hockey Princess. Again, most of that this year has put a spell on you. Everybody's excited,
which is great.
There's a lot to get excited about there. And again, there's a lot of untapped potential and stuff like that. Don't let anybody tell you just slow your roll like, Krusty old guy occasionally does. You want to get excited, get excited.
The kid's played only a couple of years as a hockey player. And he's still playing in the preseason, and Luke Richardson really likes him. So if you want to get excited over AJ Spellacy, do it. He seems like a really cool dude.
No, I would suggest people going the Hockey Princess route. And if that's your guy, he's going to be going back to the Spitfires. That's a team you might want to start watching a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've got a couple other really good players also. I believe they've got the Green Tree Kid and somebody else. So that's how you channel this. This year might still be very rough to watch. So distract yourself with maybe some junior hockey. Nothing wrong with that. I also will try not to go, well, yeah, there's crusty old guy's going to try to turn over his new leaf that everything's going to be fine. And then, well, then tonight happened and leaf burnt and crumbled. And, but yeah, I mean, don't listen to anybody who just wants to start then spouting off that, who knows what we all know that. Okay. From anybody who just starts to watch hockey to somebody who's watched it for 50 years. Yes, we don't know. There's only a select little group that we know, like a Connor Bedard, that are going to be a difference maker. Everybody else, look at Patrick Laine. He was a shoo-in, and he struggled to really become a top 6 player. Lafreniere, this year they're figuring he's finally going to be a top 6 player.
Everybody's different.
Yeah, everybody's different, and a lot of the kids coming up now, you just don't know. They've had lost time as hockey princess, most of your generation, and a big molding time in life. The world shut down, so it affects everybody. So, okay, I'm done with that subject.
That's fun. That's fun. I'd like everybody to act with kindness towards these kids. Some roster cuts with preseason. First and foremost, we didn't talk about this last week, but it was because it was kind of just expected due to injuries. Merrick Vanacker, Alex Ferrand, and Martin Misiak were the first 3 to be sent down to go to their respective junior teams, which makes sense. Vanacker's still injured, Ferrand still banged up, and Misiak. The Erie Otters are projected to be highly competitive this year, so it was pretty much a guarantee that, he was just going to get significantly more ice time in the OHL with the Erie Otters than to stay up here and continue the dance of where does he go. Like we said last week, just because guys were sent first doesn't mean that, Kyle and Luke and management are not thinking of them. Sometimes it's truly, we know who this player is and where they're at. We have a solid idea. We don't need to see more. It's not always talent-based. Then we have a lot more roster cuts. We've got King, Austin Strand, Ben Gaudreau, Gavin Hayes, Sam Savoie, Paul Ludwinski, Jalen Lupin, Marcel, Colton Dock, Cole Gutman, Ryder Rolston, Ethan DeMastro, and Landon Slaggert, all sent to the Rockford Ice Hogs. This all makes sense. I think Slaggert was one of the only ones that we were kind of unsure about if he, is in Chicago versus being in Rockford. I see him being more of like a taxi squad situation where, not if, but when someone gets injured in Chicago, he's one of the first ones to get called up. But he will start off the season in Rockford. I imagine he gets a pretty decent amount of ice time playing in Rockford. And then you have Nick Lardis reporting to his junior team, the Brantford Bulldogs. Again, this makes sense. We kind of figured this would be a thing, especially for how much time he was out last year due to injury. They wanted to give him, Rockford's already, it's a combination of Rockford's already pretty full, and they want to see him have one more year in juniors. So those are our roster cuts.
Yeah, and I've already gotten into it with somebody who now has told me that Nolan Allen is ahead of EDM on the pecking order just because EDM went down first. I have seen nothing between the showcase and the preseason games that makes me think that Nolan Allen is somehow ahead of Ethan DeMastro. I think they're both about the same. I don't think it mattered. I think they really wanted EDM down at the beginning of camp. Just my take on it. Again, whether somebody's in front or not, it just doesn't matter. Nolan Allen will, by all means, end up in Rockford. So, it is what it is. Basically everybody's going to go down as we talked about. I don't know how else to put this, but you're going to get a veteran laden team. Your announcers on television are always going to tell you that this is a young team. No, we just have one young player and maybe two, depending on if core goes down or not. So it's an old team. This is a process because of the way it was done. So it just is you're a fractured squad right now, and we're hoping to hopefully join it together a little bit starting this year. We'll see how they do. But I don't have a problem with the kids going down and all being kids. And then you reward with an injury of who's ever playing better in Rockford.
Yeah. I'm just really excited because then maybe this hopefully means that October 12th, we'll get our Gavin Hayes, Savoie, and Ludwinski line. Rockford camp started on Sunday, and from the pictures that I've been looking, it looks like that is the line down in camp at the moment, is the three of them.
Yes, I would assume your top line will be Colton Dock, NASCAR, and Slaggert. I would assume that's your top line.
Good line.
Yes.
Fast line.
It's a fast line. It's got good size, except for NASCAR. It's going to be very interesting with Rockford, because if Rockford gets off to a slow start, there's going to be people with pitchforks screaming for KD's head, saying, "You told us this was all these kids are, and they can't even do it." Don't overreact in the AHL world either. My advice to anybody who's just started watching in the last couple of years, NHL level, AHL level, those first 10 to 15 games, it's not a good barometer. After that, we get into the meat of the year. You'll then be able to tell where teams are at and where players are at. It's a feeling out process for those first 10 to 15. So, do you want to talk about any of these preseason games, or where do you want to go next there, Hockey Princess?
I do. Well, back to the AHL, don't judge for the first 10 to 15 games. I think we also need to look at, not only Rockford, but the teams that Rockford are playing within their division. It's a very different look than last year. There's a lot of changes that have happened this offseason for not only Rockford, but a lot of other teams, because you've got a couple in a rebuild, you've got a couple that are fairly competitive, but on the flip side, a lot of those guys are making it up to the NHL space, so there's not a ton of what used to be in their AHL team, and then you've got a lot of big question marks. So it's not the same division that they were playing last year. It all looks a bit different for everybody. So like Krusty said, don't jump with the pitchforks yet. And if you're jumping with pitchforks, remember to jump at Kyle with the pitchforks and not the poor 19-year-olds.
No, you can jump with Jamie first, then Kyle.
I would like to talk about the first preseason game, because that's the one that I had the ability to watch. Get to my dandy notes. So this was last week. A little bit of old news, but I didn't get to talk about it last week, so we're talking about it now. First game was against Detroit. Very sad. Kaner was not there. I did get to see DeBrincat, but Kaner was not there. Very sad. Shout out to whoever runs the graphics during the game. They had the entire game saying that it was Brandon Baddock on the ice and not AJ Spellacy. I have in quotes, this is a better power play than all of last season. And it wasn't even that amazing of a power play, but it was just a lot more entertaining to watch than last year. Once again, I love AJ Spellacy. It's going to be very exciting in Windsor. With the power play, because we talked about last week, what you wanted to see from the power play. Do you leave Connor out for the full 2 minutes? Do you have to, do you force the kid to get off the ice? I saw a little bit of both throughout the game. They kind of started one way, went the other. Definitely thought the first power play unit looked better than the second, which we knew that going in. Because the first power play unit was a lot of guys who were definitely going to be on the Blackhawk roster come October 8th. And the second is a little mishmashy between Rockford guys and guys who may have a roster spot. And then I have in big, bold letters, Tavo. Because, guys, that goal made me so excited and so happy to see him back in the 86, where he should be, where he should have never left. I was just very excited. We still lost, but I was just very excited to see Tavo back. And I really just tried to enjoy during the game that, guess what, win or lose, there's hockey in front of me. It's been a very long offseason, friends. Mrazek played for the first 40 minutes, and then we had Weeks in for the third. And then very interesting for me to watch because Sebastian Cossa also came out for the third for the Dead Wings, which not that I'm trying to spend too much attention on the Dead Wings, but I do like watching Sebastian Cossa play. And I do think that there's a possibility that he is a threat in the future and could potentially be a big strength for Detroit as he progresses. I'm a little confused as to why we're still thinking that Taylor Hall now is what Taylor Hall was like 5 years ago. I hope that he's still not battling whatever injury it was, because the last time during preseason I made a comment about Taylor Hall, it came out like the next day that he had been battling through an injury the entire time. But I don't get it. I don't think he fits in the top 6, but also at the same time, there's a lot of guys on the team who don't fit in the top 6. So Taylor Hall's got to be there. But I definitely think that it is a sore spot, at least for the preseason that I've been able to watch. Not a ton. Thanks, Jamie. It was very interesting to see Detroit had a decent amount of the guys dressed that, will have a roster spot come opening day, whereas we did not. And we didn't look too horrible. We just looked a little bad during the third period, which, we'll get that for 82 games. Big fan of Tyler Bertuzzi. This was the first time that I've actually paid attention to Tyler Bertuzzi playing. It was very exciting. I like the guy. He's a little weird, and I like weird. My 3 stars, because this, again, like I said, was the one preseason game I've been able to watch. And we're bringing the 3 stars back because we have hockey again, friends. 3rd star, Tyler Bertuzzi, because he's weird and he's got a motor and he's kind of an ass, so I like him. 2nd star goes to Paul Ludwinski, just because I think he had a solid game. I think he kept up to the best of his ability playing with veteran NHL players, both playing with them, on the Blackhawk roster, as well as playing against NHL veterans on Detroit. And I thought he did great. Before we get to the number 1 star, I'd like to give an honorable mention to Seth Jones, mainly to annoy the Seth Jones haters of Chicago, because I am not one of them. I like Seth. I think he had an okay game, but it's really hard when you're with a different team, when you're with a different pairing now, and you've got to do a little bit more work. So I think he did great, and I just like it. Like I said, the 3 stars are not out of anything really, just who I liked that game. And number 1 goes to Tavo because the goal was beautiful. He's back, and I'm excited. And I'm just really happy that Tavo has returned.
Okay. There was a lot there. You can slow your roll a little bit about Taylor Hall. The next game he played, he looked pretty good.
Yeah.
So he played with Kerr and somebody else on the line. Can't remember who. But they seemed to do some good damage. They had a lot of decent opportunities. So, Taylor Hall he's not the player of 5 years ago. He's going to have to do it for this because he's still one of the more talented players on this roster. It's just that simple. Bertuzzi has looked okay.
He is what he is, but I like the personality.
Yes, he does have the personality. Let's see, who else did you talk about?
Tavo. We love Tavo.
Tavo. I mean, Tavo's Tavo. He again is a skilled player. The problem being is watching the game this evening. Do you want to talk about watching the game this evening, and then we can talk about actually how we can't watch shit?
I don't know. You can talk about watching the game because you were able to watch it. I was not.
I had to go to the bar to watch it. So
this is ridiculous, friends.
Yes, we'll get into that in a second. But the Hawks put together a really nice 10, 12 minutes at the beginning.
Then it went to shit.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this is still an extremely fragile team. All of a sudden, AA fumbles, getting a puck out of his zone, which again are the things that I need to see improvement this year, is the show of responsibility, getting it from zone to zone to zone. You got to get it out, get it neutral, and get it deep. And then Core threw a puck to nobody.
It
happens. And then a shot on net that goes up in the air, and Lucas Reichel attempts to grab it with his glove, and it looks like he just put it down on the ground for the Minnesota player to put it in. And then Core with another wicked bad turnover, which again, you could say if Comesso just holds on to the puck, this doesn't happen. It's a flawed team, and I don't know where they're going to get their juice from. Because when I say Tavo's Tavo isn't a guy that all of a sudden starts playing a little extra physical and starts to bring his team into the fight. Unfortunately, that is a role that will be reserved for the Dick and Foligno. I didn't see it tonight, but again, no different than Bertuzzi, Seth Jones. These are veterans. They're not winding it up in a preseason game, and I get that. But I'm going to need for them to wind it up come the regular season.
I understand not winding it up for the preseason, but at what point do you wind it up?
You wind it up game 1. I mean, it's just that simple. We've seen what happened to, these 3 people that we just talked about with the injury. You don't put yourself in bad positions. Now come game 1, then you wind it up. We'll see what happens then. They look okay on paper, but just okay. And again, there's just so many good hockey clubs that play real well together. So Tonight I got real excited for about 10 minutes and then it all went to shit. They ended up losing 7-2. I've got a big problem with Luke. I understand that you were going to give the net to Comesso for all 3 periods, but you need to get him out. Luke is a very firm believer in letting them stay in there and work through their stuff. I don't think that's the best way to handle these kids or any goaltender.
He's a baby.
Yeah, so he should have been yanked earlier. We'll see what happens. I would assume Bloom gets 1 game. I don't know if Peter gets 1 more. They've got 2 left. I think we do Thursday, Friday. Does that make sense? Or Friday, Saturday?
It's Friday, Saturday, because the Saturday game is the one that's up in Milwaukee.
Yeah. So NASCAR has not looked all that great. I would assume he will start at Rockford again. Not the end of the world.
It's
again.
Okay. It's development, not a demotion.
Yeah. Somebody else repeated that on a message board I go to. And I said, hey, I hear that on my favorite podcast. Exactly. He's going to go where he needs to go. It's not that big of a deal. It's going to be a long year.
Yeah. Again.
Yes, again. So I guess the other thing to talk about is which I'm sure your listeners want to hear about, is the 25 edition of the mixtape, which I'm sure they're dying to hear. Last year we released the mixtape early for a preseason game, and it was basically the worst team I've ever seen. Crusty Old Guy's a big believer in hockey juju. So when Hockey Princess asked for the new CD, she's not getting it until opening day. That's just the way it is.
That's fair. I just needed something to listen to.
It has been worked on. It's been completed.
We have a theme.
The theme is more pain, I believe. For your listeners, we'll take them through the whole thing. This has been going on since about 2007. I worked downtown and live out in the western suburbs, so I would work downtown, then travel all the way out to the western suburbs, pick up a Hockey Princess, and then drive all the way back to games. So I decided, I believe it was the 2007 or 2008 season, that I was worried for the Hockey Princess generation to miss out on musical people. So I took it upon myself to decide, well, she needs to be educated. So the best time to educate her will be on the way down to the game. So the first mixtape was your usual Rock You Like a Hurricane for a Patrick Kane, sprinkled with a lot of Warren Zevon, because I was very worried that Hockey Princess wouldn't know who Warren Zevon was. You would miss out on the unbelievable musical genius that Warren Zevon is. So that's how this thing has started. And then there's usually a theme. I try to incorporate players' names, or situations that players are going through. Mm-hmm. On this CD, we have 5 songs that appear every year. Basically because, we have to have Chelsea's Dagger.
Obviously.
We've always kept 2 Warren Zevon songs that come out every year. We have a Bruce Springsteen song because it's very sentimental and important to Crusty Old Guy. It was the first song that all of a sudden my 2 girls got into Springsteen, and I can still remember looking in the rearview mirror and seeing them dancing to Radio Nowhere. So that always stays. And we get a Rage song, because back when the Hawks were good, they would have a montage of like plays from the year. And the one they did in 2009, 2008, I believe it was to Testified by Rage Against the Machine was just the best one I've ever witnessed. So Testified gets to stay. I can give you a little teaser. There'll be a Kyle Davidson song, and you will get a Seth Jones song.
Very important question about the tape, because there's one constant that you've missed, and now I'm worried that it's not there. Will the Giants be on the tape this year?
Well, you, like everybody else, will have to wait for capital HWKY25 to come out on Spotify.
No.
Yes.
You're making me wait.
Yes, you're going to wait. You're going to have to wait until at least after the preseason, and then we can release it after that. Okay?
We'll be able to release it with our new episode on Monday.
There you go. I'll release it Monday.
Which is just a reminder, guys. We're going up to 2 episodes a week. 2! Because we're nuts. And we need more hockey in our lives. Yeah, guys, we're going up to 2 episodes a week. We still have our regular Thursday episodes that, like we've been doing. But we're going to have more. And it's going to come out on Mondays. And we're going to meet new friends that will tell us about their teams. And if we don't have friends from that team, it's Krusty.
Yeah, and I think we went over it a little bit last week. We're just going to get you guys a little bit more familiar with each team the Hawks will be playing that week.
So, yeah.
The game plan for it is I would like us to expand our little hockey world. I think the little hockey community is one of the coolest things around. Hockey people love other hockey people. And as much as we might start to hate people, I'd love to have them on the show to hear what they think about their team.
Yeah.
So I think that's about it with that one. Do you want to discuss the shit show that is attempting to watch Blackhawk hockey?
Well,
we could do a whole friggin' show on this shit.
What? I do want to preview the teams before that we are talking about this week on Monday.
Okay.
So guys, the first week we will be playing the Utah Hockey Club. Chicago Blackhawks will be the first team going to the new place, which I really don't want to like them, but then they came out with their menu, and I really appreciate how cheap all of their refreshments and food are, and I think that's great. Yeah, do you have feelings?
Well, yeah, unfortunately I got feelings because it's just another thing not done properly by the NHL. I've seen a lot of pictures, and there I believe is 10 to 15%, maybe all the way up to 20%.
Oh, the seating
of obstructed view where you can't see the whole rink. That's a fail.
That's a big fail.
That's a big fail. This sport is the greatest thing to watch live. It is unbelievable. It's unbelievable to see exactly what the camera cannot pick up, that you're able to see. All of a sudden, you might lose sight of the puck for 15, 20 seconds because of something else happening. And yeah, they've got a good percentage of places where you can't see the whole ice. That's bad.
That's very bad. We go there first.
That's why I gave the face. In life, we're always talking about whether it's sports, whether it's at your work, whether it's anywhere, putting people in positions to succeed. That also matters for an organization. And you're bringing hockey to a place that hasn't seen it, and I just wish that wouldn't be a problem. Okay, I ranted enough.
That's fair. I completely forgot that people can't see on that ice.
Yeah, I mean, they'll be able to see, but they'll miss like 20% of the ice.
Yeah.
If you're stuck somewhere behind the net, you can't see the net, and that's bad.
That's very bad. So we played them first, and we actually have friends. We'll have the Locked On Utah Hockey podcast. They will be joining us on Monday. The other two, we're playing Winnipeg and Edmonton. So far, we don't have friends. Hopefully, we make friends eventually because we play them more in the season. So Krusty's going to be telling us about Winnipeg and Edmonton. It's probably a good thing that we don't have Edmonton friends right now. It'll give me time to calm down my anger against Edmonton.
Yeah, I know you've reached out to more than a couple, at least on the Edmonton end. I don't get it, but what do I know? So yeah, I'll be doing 2 out of the 3, and then we're up to about 50%, I think, right? So we're gonna attempt to get that up a little bit higher.
Yeah,
and we'll see where that goes.
Yeah,
but it should be neat. We're gonna give you at least enough knowledge to understand the team that we're gonna be facing and things to look for.
Yeah. Krusty, you got anything for this week? Anything else?
Unless you want to talk about the shit show that is Trying to Watch.
You can't watch. It's awful. Jamie's cheap, and it sucks that nobody can watch this game. I'm pretty sure it encapsulated it.
Yeah, that's about it. We're hoping that by the time the regular season starts, they will have a deal in place with Comcast, so everybody will be able to then watch. It would be an epic fail not to get that deal done, but it's big money, and two sides are trying to get their best deal done. So yeah, we'll see where it goes. No, I don't think I got. Holy shit! Our next time we talk will be game time, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So I feel like I should give a pep talk or something.
It's going to be good. We can't promise that it's good. We can't promise that it's bad. But guys, it may be slightly more entertaining and slightly less pathetic than last year.
Yes. As long as Peter Mrazek stays Peter Mrazek of this newfound, we're going to be okay. Take away tonight's game. I still think we're going to be in games. Tune in. We're on the West Coast to begin with, so that means late games. So don't go to work the next day. Blow that out. Work's stupid.
Work is stupid.
So I hope all of your fans are ready. I would also like to tell your fans, if you're new to the sport, a couple years in, I suggest getting in a hockey fantasy league. It's a good way to start following players. You can do them on Yahoo, ESPN. Just join up for one public league. And if enough of you start to play, I think Hockey Princess is thinking about trying to do something with us maybe next year. But it's another way, if you want to start getting into hockey, that you end up paying a little bit more attention to players and their stats.
That's how I learned about Gabriel Landeskog.
And I will tell you right now, you don't need to know a ton to do okay in fantasy. Fantasy is mostly luck.
That is true. All right. Just as a reminder, make sure to hit that like and subscribe on either Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, however you watch or listen to us on a weekly basis. Please do not get up while the puck's in play and wait for a stoppage of play before going back to your seat, folks. That is all. We will talk at you guys Monday. Woo woo! Off season's over.